Board for February 18th. We have one order of business. We have a request for an extension of time. Appeal number 2758, the appeal of BMR of 145 King of Prussia Road, LP. On July 14th, 2009, the Zoning Board granted a 6-month extension in time to obtain a building permit on the above. That extension will expire on February 28th, 2010. Final land development approval was granted to the applicant on February 23rd, 2009. The applicant is in the process of finalizing its sewer planning module, as well as deciding how to market the approved development. As a result, the applicant respectfully requests an additional 6 months extension to the requirement to obtain a building permit. Thank you for your time and consideration. Nicholas Cadania. Any objections or any opinions? Noah?
I have no objections.
Okay. Granted, okay. Is anybody here from the board? Okay, appeal number 2823, continued from January. The appeal of Lane Wayne Properties LP, located at 417 East Lancaster Avenue, Wayne, Pennsylvania, seeks an additional parking for its 54-unit condominium known as Pembroke North Condominium. Applicant intends to provide 2 parking spaces for each unit, in addition to 16 spaces for visitors parking. Applicant's property is a split zone district being R6 and R5. Applicant seeks a special exception and/or variance from section 280-105F to permit parking within the front yard setback. Applicant further contends that it complies with section 280-35B of the code and 280-36.3A of the code regarding impervious coverage, or in the alternative, request a variance.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Since the last time we were here, we have revised the plans. We had met with neighbors as the board requested. We had 2 meetings. The first one I'll show the board is marked A14, and actually we've pulled the parking back now to 50 feet.
Mr. Kelly, if I could just interrupt for a second. Before the hearing, I was approached by Mr. Levin for the neighbors, who has a conditional statement of opposition, and I don't know if this is the appropriate time to give you a copy of that and submit that to the board. I'm guessing that is a statement of opposition that would not apply if whatever arrangements have been worked out are indeed consummated. Am I correct in assuming that?
Yeah, we still have some, I believe we still have maybe 1 or 2 outstanding issues that we're trying to resolve. So I think the Levins want to preserve their appeal rights if necessary. I think is really what it comes down to. And remember, the Levins own the Crestwood Apartments, which is adjacent to the property. It's not, we're not dealing with all the neighbors here. We're just talking regarding the Levins. And I think Ray just wants to hand it off to you.
Are you marking this? Where do you mark this one?
I'm going to, the last one, I think
we had 2.
Yeah, I think this is P3. Is this the same statement that was done last?
The cover letter is different. The attached is the same.
The statement itself is the same.
Yes.
Jim? This is P3, is that what we're calling this with the cover letter?
Yeah. So this says that you no longer have an agreement with the applicant.
That's correct.
John, do we need to read this into the record, or just be?
I think they'll have a chance to speak, and
Okay.
if they wish it read into the record at that point. That would be
Just by way of brief opening, I've handed up to the board 2 additional exhibits. One is A14, which in fact replaces A3. You may recall A3 was a zoning plan. The difference between the 2 plans is A3 showed the property or the parking at the 25-foot setback line. This now has been moved back outside the front yard setback to the 50-foot setback line. The other difference is now that the impervious coverage is actually less than what currently exists. You may recall that the impervious coverage was 64%. It has now been reduced to 63.5%. And when we're talking about that, I'm talking just in the R5 zoning district. So we are not increasing impervious coverage. We don't need relief on the front yard parking setback. And I've also shown as A15, the other concern after meeting with the neighbors was the appearance of what was the common party wall. And you'll notice now that we have designed it so that it appears the same as the existing building, the same as the building that remains. Therefore, it gives the appearance of actually being a single structure instead of formerly a twin structure. And I'll call George up perhaps just to confirm. I know I went through the file today to see what exhibits were entered into.
Mr. Cornelia, the parcel in which the parking is to be placed is still a separate parcel? Is that to be merged into the other lot as part, and would be part of the land development?
Yes, as part, we would have to proceed still with subdivision in order to merge the lots. And reviewing the transcript, that was mentioned last time as well. You had brought that up, and we had agreed that we would have to do that. And we
So that would be a condition of, if, assuming the board were to grant an approval, the merger of this strip into the other lot would be an acceptable condition.
Correct. So as I said, I'm not certain if there's any relief that we need, except for the fact that we are reducing the existing impervious coverage. And as I mentioned to you before, we do not have to, we have pushed the parking back to the 50-foot setback line as well.
Nick, so what are you looking for now?
I guess confirmation that
You need that, huh?
we don't need any relief that this is.
John, what do they need, John?
Just a second, I'm looking. A second. The relief that we needed last time was front yard setback, which.
That's done away with.
and,
Impervious, and that's done away with.
Yeah. And by merging, I think that you're,
Yeah, and we understood that we had, as you correctly raised last time, that if it was not merged, it would just be a parking lot.
Yeah.
But since this would be merged, it would be an accessory parking lot to the
to
condominium.
the
permitted
common
use.
thing. And I believe the definition of parking is parking for uses permitted on the same lot,
Correct.
which would mean that that would be okay.
John, the other thing I want to ask, I want to make sure of, if they're going to merge these lots, is there any way, if the board so decides to grant them whatever we have to grant them, if there's anything, that they can't increase the coverage of this lot by merging it, so the aggregate, so if they merge it all, the aggregate would allow them to build more onto this lot. I don't want them to be able to do that.
I think the
You know what I mean?
Well, if they merge it into the lot, I mean, there's two different impervious coverage requirements, and they're really, I think, averaging, isn't that what?
No,
we're
but
doing?
that's
No,
what we
no.
did first time. We're
Right,
not
and that
doing
didn't
that
work.
now.
No, we weren't buying that
You
one.
did not buy that one.
We're not buying that
You're
one.
not
Let me
Tried to
ask
sell
you,
it, but we weren't
Yeah,
buying
yeah,
it.
yeah. It was a
Let me ask you the
blended, you weren't buying it, yeah.
$64,000 question. Does the impervious coverage on the R5 piece comply with the R5 requirements?
It decreases the existing nonconformity.
Decreases, but it still does not comply.
Correct.
But he decreases what's there already, so that, you know.
Well, you could then, you could absolutely put a condition.
Okay,
of that
that's what I want to
sort.
make sure of. Okay.
You could absolutely put in a condition of that sort in.
Mr. Hall was sworn in last time. I'll just go through. You want me to-
George Hall? Yes, ma'am.
And George, your position with Len Wayne
I'm the
Properties up
Senior
here.
Vice President of Len Wayne Properties.
Okay, and I've shown the board A14, which now replaces Exhibit A3. Is that correct?
Yes.
And A15, which replaces actually Exhibits A4 and A5. Correct?
Correct.
And just to go through the exhibits that we have in the file. And you heard what I testified here, or what I stated here in my opening statement to the board. Is that true and correct?
It is.
And just going through the rest of the exhibits. For the board, A6 represents the current property.
That is correct.
And I believe we've gone through this, but I don't know if we actually, going through the transcript, it didn't look like they were marked and made part of it. Also, I noticed that A2 is the deed. Is that correct? That indicates the owner of the property is being Len Wayne Properties
Yes, it
LP?
is.
And A7 is a view of the property from,
From Building 300.
which is Pembroke North
Yes,
condominium.
correct.
And I believe A8 is just a view of neighboring properties.
That is correct.
A9 shows the Pembroke North condominiums,
It does.
as does A10.
Yes.
And A11 through 13, A13 also show, or A11 just shows
Neighboring
other
properties.
neighboring properties, correct. I believe A10 also shows the type of light fixtures that we would be using on the properties, correct? Which are the Wayne business. Okay, the light fixtures are the ones approved for Wayne Business?
They are.
area?
And they're also outfitted with a shield to redirect the light away from other buildings in the area.
Okay. And looking at A14, as we've represented to the board, we are now pulling the parking lot back to 50 feet from the right-of-way.
That's correct.
And also, in the R5 zoning district, the existing impervious is 64%, correct?
Yes,
In the plan?
and I believe we were at 64.4% currently.
No, we're lower, we're at 63.5% now?
What I'm saying is the current building, I think it exists at 64.4 if I'm not mistaken.
I believe it's 64%, at least according to the engineered plan.
Okay,
All right, and we're reducing it to 63.5%.
that's correct.
The building has yet to be demolished, right?
That's
Yep,
correct.
That's correct, it has not been demolished. That's all I would have.
What's it say?
Well, this says, as an apartment building as an accessory use. Just like you see how
Okay.
Nick, it seems to me that the variance relief that you're requesting is to be able to expand the area on the lot that would, be usable for parking on the theory that because you're getting rid of the building, you net out a little bit less, and that that's really the variance relief. Because I don't see this as something that is clearly permitted over the counter. I think that it would have to be variance dimensional relief predicated on the fact that you're reducing a nonconformity.
Either variance or special exception, but I tend to disagree because I know in the township, whenever you're reducing an existing nonconformity, that you didn't need relief from any provision of the zoning code. And that's been the history of it.
101, well, this isn't a 101.
But this would be, I mean, it would be under
101A.
101 if we were to proceed as a special exception, which personally I don't have a problem with, because I know you may want to impose a condition, which we would, obviously would comply with anyway. 101B is what we've used in the past
I think
by
it would
not
be
increasing
101B.
existing nonconformities, which is really.
101B is nonconforming buildings.
Right, and it talks about dimensional.
I mean, I think the closest one would be 101A1, but
I
it's not.
I was going to say,
But it's
because
not a particularly comfortable fit for the shoe, to be perfectly honest, because we're expanding the blacktopping for a net.
Well, the issue, you can have as much blacktop provided it complies with the code. So the
Yeah,
issue is
right.
the impervious, not really the
Yeah, you're
blacktop.
reducing a nonconformity, but you're also expanding a use that requires, the use is, I guess, permitted, because it's part of the same lot. But it's certainly not a right thing, and I would think that, probably as a dimensional variance, which would be founded upon a slight overall reduction in the nonconformity of impervious surfaces.
anyone have any questions? Nick, Noah, anything? No? Oh, you're not?
No, I can't, I didn't hear the part of it in December.
Oh, okay,
I'm not
okay.
sure, so.
I tend to see this as a 101B1. I know it's not a building, but 101B1 talks about physical structures on the property. So in this case, the variance relief being sought is as to a physical element of the property. Seems most analogous to a 101B1 situation.
Because it talks about land coverage too, and
Yeah.
density requirements.
And we have given 101B1 relief before, I think, in connection with impervious coverage.
Well, it's an accessory use is an accessory use permitted, subordinate to principal use on the lot. So
Right.
once you merge, this is accessory to the use
Okay.
permitted
Yep.
on the back of the lot. So I'm not worried about that.
Okay.
I mean, we could call it there's an argument that it is that it is a special exception. And we certainly have treated this kind of stuff as a special exception before. There's also, when you're reducing a nonconformity, that to me militates with some force in favor of a dimensional variance, although it's not, by itself dispositive.
Right.
I recall not talking about theories of relief, but do recall also currently there's no stormwater management on this site, and we're actually going to maintain the whole site now, the whole 63.5% will actually be maintained.
Regardless of whether it's a variance or a special exception, conditions can be attached, and indeed the merger is a necessary condition, because then this requires a use variance if there's no merger of the lot line. That's got it. The two conditions, we have to have the merger of the R5 piece into the main thing as a single lot. And then we talked about no further impervious on the R5
Yes.
portion,
Yes.
which to me is a perfectly sustainable condition, and indeed the applicant has agreed to it.
Okay. You have anything to say? No? Nick, are you done?
Yeah, I believe I introduced my exhibits.
Mr. Levin? Is that who it was? Mr. Levin?
And may I have your full name again?
Raymond Levin. Just, I would like to have our objection.
Okay, has he been sworn in?
Though I swear your name.
No.
To raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give to be the truth and the truth, nothing but the truth?
I do. I would just like our objection read into the, and put into the,
If you'd like to read it in, go ahead. Read it in.
okay. Well, I submitted it, so that goes into the record anyway.
Yes, basically,
Okay.
you put a cover letter that says the same, the objections that we
That you have.
had
Okay.
before. And I
Doug,
think
you had said you wanted it read in, that's why I said,
Okay.
if you can read the cover letter, we can accept it as is, I mean.
That's fine, you can accept it. That's fine.
you had said that you had gotten some discussions with them, and some things were solved and some weren't.
Yeah.
What wasn't solved?
There was just a few issues that we got hung up on. We got mostly there, and in the 13th hour, there was a few things that got hung up where conditions were being changed. But,
What were they? What are they?
they're,
Do you want to add in this, Nick?
Sure, I'll just,
Go ahead.
yeah, I've been talking to Jim. I don't know if Ray's
Just so
even
we
here.
know what
Yeah,
they are.
the issue was one, you may recall, we probably agreed to 15 conditions or 16 conditions. Really, none of them really had to do with zoning, but they more had to do with what would be permitted to park there, how far we would put a wall and a fence, what type of buffering we would have, and things of that nature. And what it came down to is, right now, the wall extends past where the parking is, or the Levins wanted to extend it past where the parking is, the wall and the fence and buffering. And then there was another issue regarding parking of one maintenance vehicle in this lot. So that's really what it came down to, is something that hopefully we'll be able to resolve, because as you can see, it's something that should be resolved.
Okay.
Can you resolve it now with your,
Pardon?
I mean, this issue can be resolved? at
Now,
this-
we'll talk more on it. We have to come back, as John said, to land development, and so, we were trying to
Okay.
talk today, and Jim, his brother and co-owner, is going away on vacation, so we kind
Okay.
of decided to put it on hold for now.
Okay, you
Mr.
okay with that?
Keneally, I'd just like to observe again that the conditions, the various terms that were attached, I observed last time, struck me as not being appropriate for including as conditions to an approval, but instead as a private covenant between the applicant and the neighbor, which, would be recorded as the parties desired, but that's got to be enforced privately. There's
And
a
that's
lot
what
of
we were
stuff in
doing.
here.
Okay.
And we were working it as an agreement, a recordable agreement is what we were working toward.
But the township, I don't see the township as being able to
Right.
get involved.
And we
Okay.
knew that, we understood that, and Jim Levin and myself and Ray both understand that, and that's, we were working toward a recordable agreement that we recorded kind of like a deed restriction on this premises.
I mean, assuming that and that's a big assumption, the board grants this, I assume that you would try to get this closed before the appeal period on the decision ran.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else, Nick? Anyone from the audience have anything to say? Yes?
Okay. Go ahead, you can swear.
Would
in.
be sworn in, please?
Please raise your right hand. You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
Say your full name, please.
Baron Gemmer, Baron Gemmer.
Mr. Falcone, just, I'm going to object to standing here. Mr. Gemmer lives on South Wayne Avenue, probably over a mile from the site. And go ahead, you can, if you want to say where your address
I
is.
live on South Wayne and own a property on Bloomingdale, and probably the two properties average either a half mile to 7/10 of a mile from this property, not a mile.
I'm going to object to standing. This is not even visible from where he lives and where he owns properties we're talking, I think it's more than a half mile or a mile, but you're several blocks away, if not more, than from the site. His interest is no different than any other interest of any other person on this property. There's a case that I can hand up that I think Mr. Ryan referred to last meeting in reference to something else.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
If it-
Lauman?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, is the Lauman case, Mr. Cornelia?
Yes. And that specifies what the standards are for establishing standing.
There's a new case which we've addressed recently, the Lauman case out of the Commonwealth Court. I think early 2009. I haven't got a copy with it with me today, but it does say that there's got to be something more than sort of a general interest shared by all citizens. And then Lauman, 8/10 of a mile rather, was held to be too far away to challenge a rezoning that permitted a flea market. So the rezoning actually allowed considerable excess use beyond what was permitted on the property. There is language in Lauman that people who are adjacent to a property or maybe within a few hundred feet are presumed to have standing and be injured, but beyond that they have to show it. And 7/10 of a mile is again, in my view, the radius of standing increases with the disruptiveness of the use, and there would be a much larger radius for building the Sears Tower than building a porch addition, and it's a fact-by-fact case, but at some point the standing is just not as established, and the board could either rule on the motion or the applicant has made a very detailed objection to standing, which would accompany this record should this matter be appealed.
I'm Jim Schneller.
But you're not on that, Mr. Snow. Please sit down. We'll call you when this gentleman's done. Thank you.
Well, what he was going to do is, I was just going to speak on his behalf because he would have standing. We've talked about these issues.
Do you want to remove your standing?
No,
I mean, do you
don't
want to say
I
you
wanna
do not
talk
have
for- I want to
standing?
speak for both of us, but.
No, you can't speak for both
All
of
right,
you.
then I will speak for myself with the objection noted, and Mr. Sneller can
Okay,
concur with my.
You have a
points.
couple of minutes to talk.
Okay.
I'm sorry, was objection granted, denied, or?
Well,
This
I-
board
I-
has generally not ruled on, we've done it once, but often we've not ruled on the motions, but, once they're in the record, they're there for the purpose of appeal. Now, we have
Right.
gone beyond that.
but I'm going to let him talk.
Thank you. The first issue I'd like to bring up is.
But briefly.
Okay, I will be as brief as I can. This is.
No,
this is
briefly.
it.
Thank you.
But these are matters of zoning. This is not a matter of opinion, so that's what I'd like to bring. The first one is by demolishing the house that exists on this property right now, they are creating a nonconformity on the house next door because it no longer is a semi-detached requiring only one side yard setback. It would require two. And that
We've
variance.
heard this was brought up last time.
It was not, no, only after the meeting. It was not
Yeah.
brought up in
No,
the
I
meeting.
think we heard something to that effect about the house coming down.
I think that if the house next door is owned by somebody else, it's not owned by the applicant.
I understand that, yes.
I don't think you can require the applicant to build, to maintain a house to keep another property that they don't own in
Right.
compliance with zoning. I just don't think that's
This was
supportable.
brought up at the last 2 months ago when they were here.
Well,
Because the effect of that is to require this property to maintain something, this landowner to maintain something on his property for the benefit of another owner. And I just don't think that zoning law allows what really amounts to a right of eminent domain in favor of the neighbor in terms of,
Right.
freezing the property.
So next.
I hear, okay. I disagree because I don't think the zoning allows for it. Next, we've talked about putting this R5 as part of this lot suddenly allows it to be used as a parking lot. And I would still object, saying that is a non-conforming use for R5. And more importantly, it's not even a slippery slope, it's a cliff, because you look at what regulations you're trying to apply to. First off, there's two things within R5, whether it's multiple dwellings or not. And Nick chose the multiple dwellings dimensional variances or dimensions to use, which is 30% for building coverage and 36 for impervious coverage. But what's also in that same section is that the average lot area per dwelling unit must not be less than 5445. Well, it's not. It's only like 21 something. If you're considering this to be part of the lot as a whole, you can't satisfy some of the R5 requirements and not satisfy others that you're using. Furthermore, for the same one he's using, a minimum lot width at the building line of not less than 100 feet. And this lot is not, the R5 lot is not 100 feet wide. Just to give you, I mean, that's just an example of why it's so problematic, but even more so, think about it in general. There's a lot of C1 properties and R5 properties right next to each other. This would allow someone to max out a C1 with a building and just use the R5 for parking and totally abuse the zoning code for whatever they want, because parking typically is what restricts people. So if this were allowed, which I don't believe it's allowed under the code, it just opens up a Pandora's box of lots being joined for this purpose to whichever, even the other way around where you use an R5 to make a massive R5 and then use the C1, which has 60% impervious, to make a big parking lot to support a much larger residential unit. And that's why I think that, going back to the primary purpose, I do not think this isn't allowed under R5 regardless of whether it belongs to this lot or not.
I have to say, the accessory use definition in the code says the use of a building, structure, or land that is not a principal permitted use which is entirely incidental and subordinate to the principal use permitted on the same lot. They're entitled to take advantage of that provision in the code. And if they make this part of the other lot, I think that permits them to have accessory parking. That might not be the answer in terms of the best policy, but that's something that needs to be pursued with the commissioners.
No, I understand.
That's the ordinance that came to us.
What I disagree with that is your definition of lot, because you look at how lot is used within, for example, R5, it says, you're talking about a lot within R5, not a lot that might encompass more. It talks about, a building may be erected or used, or a lot may be occupied. That's in the R5. It's talking about a lot in R5, not a superset of a lot, which is a combination of R6, R5,
Lots
C1.
commonly in the township are bisected by, lots do not have to follow zoning boundaries in the township. I'm afraid that's
No, but they also, well,
Okay, what else?
he's got to get subdivision approval to do that. The applicant has to get subdivision approval to make that merger, and that's not something that we can impose on the commissioners. They have to agree to that. That's part of the subdivision ordinance. All that the board could do if it were to approve this would be to require the merger as a condition to getting the
Accessory
zoning
use.
approval. If for whatever reason under the subdivision ordinance, the commissioners don't approve it, then a zoning board approval by its terms would not have force.
well, in the provision you're talking about for sharing parking, because that's in, it's nothing in the subsection. This is it's 280, I think this is 103, 280-103. Nothing in this subsection shall be construed to prevent the collective provision of off-street parking facilities for two or more buildings or uses on the same lot, regardless of what your definition of lot is. I only see one building and one use here. The intent in sharing is that each lot, whether it was the same district or a different district, would have its own use, and you'd be sharing the parking there, not just taking over lots entirely for parking.
All right, thank you.
One final thing. I was able to, and obviously this is through another party, I was able to confirm today, there was an issue actually at the subdivision back in 2005 that was overlooked, and I was able to speak with Dan Malloy about this, but obviously that would be hearsay, but they actually are short on their parking because in the Saldo Code 225-29A20, because they have a private garage, they actually have to have additional parking beyond the 2 per dwelling. And one of the thoughts in terms of solving that, because it's a private garage, would be instead of having garage door openers or whatever they use for the residents, is to have the door open automatically and have security cameras, which would also not only eliminate the problem they're coming to you now, but also eliminate the subdivision problem, which will come up again when they go before the planning commission.
I have no clue.
I have no idea what you're talking
No
about.
idea.
Yeah, well, let me,
I mean, that was from before,
I mean,
and
if you're talking about a private
that's an ancient
garage,
history, and we're not
I'm just
reconvening that on this board.
I understand
We're talking
that.
about this specific,
and I was just saying that the
Okay.
solution to that would also be the solution to
okay.
this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All done? Great, thank you very much. Anyone else?
Again, I raised my objection.
Okay.
I know, Jim, let me just raise my objection. They're going to let you talk. I raised my objection again that he has no specific pecuniary interest that permits
Okay.
standing on this.
Mr. Schneller, how far away from this property do you live?
I live within 1,000 feet. I live on the next block. I live in the, to be particular, it's the St. David's Park on the 500 block, which are the brick condos. And although I'm across Lancaster Pike.
Jim, can you use the microphone, please? Thank you.
My name's Jim Schneller.
Actually, we ought to probably swear you
Yeah.
in while we're about it.
You raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear or affirm testimony you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
So help me God, I do.
State your full name, please.
James Schneller.
Mr. Schneller, you'll need to talk into the microphone.
And how far away do you live?
I live on the next block, which would be 5 or 6 lots away, lots of this size. And I believe it's within 1,000 feet. I also feel acutely aggrieved in particular ways. In one particular way, I am a strictly pedestrian and bicycle.
If I may, just
Yes.
to go on the standing, Mr. Schneller, admit he does not own, he lives in one of the rental units at St. David's Park Apartments, so he has no pecuniary interest in this matter, too.
Actually, I would disagree. I think a tenant, to the extent their property is, the use of their property is impaired, does have standing. I don't think you have to be an owner to have standing. On that particular point, I'd have to concur.
When you look at all the elements, though,
Yeah.
he has to have some sort of interest in addition to
Yeah, but I
the
don't think
general
it has to
public.
be, I don't think it
I
has to
understand
be
that.
pecuniary. You could,
That's
impair
one of the
views and
elements.
things of that sort, and still have standing. But I don't think Mr. Schneller's, that the fact that he, if he's a tenant, if he's a resident there, I think that's the threshold that he needs to have. It's more. a
At our
matter of
rents,
distance.
I'm paying healthy taxes anyhow.
Okay, Mr. Snelling. Your objections, or you agree with this?
I'm sorry, but I have to object. If I could digress a little bit on the standing. I do principally travel by bicycle and on foot, which means I use the sidewalk in front of the premises or across Lancaster Pike from the premises. And that makes me more affected, not only by noise, like slamming doors and additional vehicle traffic, but also pollution and visual disturbance. The comfort and environment issues, I think, are just as important. And I believe that when you're expanding parking, you're going to get more traffic. It's not the other way around. If it's there, it's going to be used. And I would have to agree with Mr. Gemmer's point in that if the garage is essentially a private garage, then we're talking about a completely different set of statutes that should be falling into place here. And I'd add to that, in other words, when you're talking about a private garage, all the numbers change. And ultimately, the entire focus of the previous determination is which should still govern. If the decision was made with just the sole lot originally occupied, this is a tack-on, and I will segue to my jurisdictional objections, which is this is a tack-on. They shouldn't have jurisdiction in the first place, and they have no right to postpone something. I know they use the driveway for construction purposes. Meanwhile, a house has been left to deteriorate with broken windows. And I don't think it's the right way to effectively enable the zoning provisions that are here to protect us. And finally, as to standing, I believe that the prior speaker has standing for all the reasons that I won't tire you with, namely that there really is no case in existence, not without blending cases and reinterpreting them, is there a single case that makes distance a determining factor. When you look at past zoning board decisions.
We've already made a decision on that. Move on to your other things, please.
In brief, the sign advertising this hearing, when I went to look at it 3 days ago, was a tattered piece of unreadable paper about the size of my hand swinging on a pole. Not only that, it was posted, there was only one posted facing east, not west. And this is, I don't think you have jurisdiction. I know it was advertised in the paper, but
This was
People-
advertised 3 months.
people walk that stretch.
Yeah, 3 months. And it met, as far as advertising goes, it met all the legal requirements of the township.
Didn't they have to re-advertise, though?
No, not if it's
Nope,
an
not-
advertised hearing. You know, that's gratuitous advertising. If you have the first hearing, which was advertised, and we continue with the hearing, it's a continued hearing, then, you know, that's, you're responsible for the continuance.
Thank you.
Don't have to re-advertise.
I guess that's a bad term. Excuse me.
Doesn't hurt, but it's not necessary.
Anything else?
Yes. I'd like to say about impervious. I agree with,
Well, they're not changing the impervious. They're decreasing it, so that's not an issue.
however, I wasn't.
It's not an issue.
Does anyone know if my record that was asked, my letter that was asked, requested by me to be of record is part of the record? I request that the board make sure that is in the file. And
Have we received a letter from you in this appeal,
yes, before the prior hearing.
on this particular appeal? In December we received that?
It was,
Not in one of your other appeals, but has to have
No.
been in this appeal.
yes.
Do you remember that, Jim?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have it in my folder.
Do you have a copy of that?
I'm sorry, no.
Do you remember that? Do you remember a letter from, I don't remember.
I don't. I don't remember one way or the other.
I mean, I keep anything I get.
I'm sorry, we have no letter.
I mean, it's not in the township file.
It's not in the township file. Did you hand deliver that letter?
No, but it was sent certified mail.
Do you have the receipt?
Yes.
Can I see it, please?
I'm sorry, I don't have it with me. I didn't expect this.
No, we don't have it, and you don't have the receipt.
Mr. Chairman, if he can just, you know, we don't need the letter really, if he will just briefly state his grounds for opposition.
Also, in regard to impervious, there's been talk of impervious tonight. Could I just?
Yeah, but
No, but they reduced it, so there's no need for, they're not asking for any impervious relief.
Well, I'd appreciate just 30 seconds to put in the record, because it's very important.
But they're not asking for any relief.
They're reducing impervious.
Well, then they
They're-
should have re-advertised, if they're changing the relief.
No, you
No,
don't
no.
re-advertise.
No, you
it.
do
They're
not have
asking
to
for
re-advertise.
Less relief.
okay.
Are you sure it's less or less or
Yes,
more?
yes, it's less.
Well, why is the CVS lot a mass of pavement
Okay.
and neighbors complaining
Okay.
continually?
Anything else do you have about it?
Okay. I have to ask that there be no finding of hardship, and that includes for demolishing it. I know you're not here to enforce historical, but there is.
But they're not asking for anything hardship. They're
There's
not
absolutely-
asking for any of that. I mean, they're not, it's
They're not
not,
asking for variance,
right now, they're not asking for a demolition. It has nothing to do with us.
but that's done by combining lots. Now,
But it has nothing to do with this board.
I'm sorry, not combining lots, but the combining of C5 and C6 zoning, I think, is totally all
But
right.
it's always been that way. That lot has always been at dual zoning.
Well, is it, yeah, but I don't understand the application of the law. I don't believe that the law says that you can mix and match with zoning from two different zones.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
Absolutely. I'm sorry.
Especially in a
Split
case
zoning.
where I believe it's.
There is split zoning all the time.
Yeah.
But there is only about a 5-square-foot section in the other zone.
Doesn't make any
Doesn't
difference.
matter. Split zoning is split zoning.
Well, if I could object, I don't think that a
But
tiny
it has-
postage
But it has
stamp-
nothing to do with this board. I mean, the zoning, what the zonings are not the responsibility of this board. Alls we do is people ask for relief for specific things they do in different areas.
But I'm concerned about the number of spaces and the fact that it's being allowed at all, essentially. And with the per square footage, requirements. I'm not sure, and as far as impervious, I'm not sure that we're
Yep.
approaching it in the
Okay,
exact.
we're not getting anywhere. Do you have anything new to add?
I'd request that the findings state numbers. As far as environment, I stated before that I think comfort and other matters, while they're nebulous, they are part of the zoning law, and I'd just like to say that Lancaster Pike is not drained well.
There's no entrance or exit on any street. It's coming off on the Lancaster Pike. So there's no worries about you riding your bike and involving traffic.
Well, there are dozens of pedestrians use the Pike, and
Yeah, but there's
the
no,
drainage-
there's no access or egress or ingress from this lot on the Lancaster Pike.
And in fairness, Mr. Chairman, those are whether things are sidewalks are good or bicycling is facilitated, those are exactly out of line, concerns shared by all citizens and do not generate standing. They're not before the board.
I'm sorry, I think that is very broad for someone who happens to live within 1,000 feet and walks along the sidewalk.
Do you have anything else, Mr. Snelling?
Yes. If I
That's
could say-
relevant?
Yes, I believe the merged lots provision is ambiguous.
Well,
It's
that's
an
not, it's not
uncertainty.
in front of this board. That's
That's a subdivision issue.
I
As
believe-
a subdivision, you
yeah.
take that up with the commissioners when this comes in front of them.
I believe that you're adding it as a provision
No.
is out of your bounds.
No.
And also, I'd like to ask some sort of triggering of shade also. There are trees on this.
That's not
Yep.
for this, that's not
So
our bailiwick.
there will be no statement in the findings as to merging being a condition?
No,
Because if
merging-
there is, I wish you'd put in a condition about shade tree also.
That's, the shade tree department takes care of that.
Yeah, that's part of the land development.
That's part of land development. Merger of the lots is something that we deal with because then without merger.
I understand.
We're saying they have to merge the lots in order to use this variance. We are not saying whether they will be able to merge the lots. That is the problem, that's something they have to pursue with the commissioners. All we're saying is, without telling the commissioners they have to do it, is that they have to make their peace with the commissioners and get that approval.
Thank you, Mr. Snelling.
Finally, as far as neighboring lots, I think that the tenants and the ownership of the adjoining apartment building are being done a disservice.
They're representative, and they've come to an agreement with the appellant.
As far as the
They can talk for themselves, and they've already done that.
the need for variance that's being created on the other lot, well, that's creating an appearance problem on the corner lot, the large apartment building. And I know it's being addressed, but it's also a visual problem for the entire area. We love St. David's. When we're driving
Okay,
or walking.
thank you. You have anything new to add?
This wasn't said, I bet.
Yeah, it's been said.
Well, the environmental and the visual matters are part of your domain, if I could kindly
All right.
suggest.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anything else, Nick? Okay, you want to move the,
I believe I requested that the exhibits be made part of the record, please. And in summation,
Jim?
we initially had asked for relief from the front yard parking requirements we no longer need since we're pulling it back to 50 feet. And then what would be before the board, although I'd argue that we probably have it by right, but if the board wishes to grant a special exception, that's fine too. Regarding the impervious coverage, we are reducing the impervious coverage. And in addition to reducing the impervious coverage, we're actually putting stormwater management in also, so we're going to make the situation much better than what currently exists. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions from anyone on the board? Okay.
One thing that the board might want to consider, because they're not building a building, it's a subdivision. I guess stormwater management is triggered by the merger of the lot. That gets you into the subdivision ordinance, but it would not be an inappropriate condition, in my view, for the board to say that they have to address stormwater management in a fashion satisfactory to the
Yeah,
commission.
stormwater would actually, when we go in for the grading permit, because we actually would get a grading permit for this site, it would address the stormwater management. And actually, the subdivision, I'm sure Karen's going to have to put on the subdivision, and the merger with the stormwater management is before Dan Malloy will
Yeah, if they
approve
merge,
it.
I guess if they merge the lots, well, no, they're merging them. They have to, I'm not so sure that is I guess it's not a reconfiguration of the lot line, it's merging the two
Right.
lots.
It's an elimination of lot line.
Right.
Elimination of the lot line.
What would happen here is, whether we're reducing impervious coverage or not, since we're adding it, since we're redoing it, township engineering requires you to put stormwater management in, for the entire piece. Right, Karen? Maybe you just want to address that real quickly.
You reopening
This is
this
Karen
now?
McMahon. No, I'm not. I don't, forget it. Okay.
You would have, the applicant would not, it seems to me to be a reasonable condition for this, that, stormwater management on this property be addressed to the satisfaction of the township engineer. Is that something that would be problematic?
Okay. Okay. Jim, you want to do this one?
Sure. I would suggest that we grant a special exception with respect to the impervious coverage under Section 101B1 of the code on the grounds that they're actually reducing the existing nonconformity as to impervious coverage. As conditions, I would recommend that we require a merger of the two lots to make the parking on the I think that's the R5 section, accessory to the R6 section, or to the principal use on the R6 section. I would further suggest that we have as a condition that there be no increased impervious coverage on the R5 lot. And lastly, that the applicant address stormwater management in a manner that is acceptable to the township engineer.
Jim? You agree?
I agree.
Agree. Also, I don't know, can I do this, that there cannot be any direct access to Lancaster Avenue? There's none there now, but I want to make sure that they don't do it in the future.
No vehicle access?
Yes.
Okay, I agree with that.
Okay?
Is that a problem?
No.
Okay.
That's the condition.
So we have 4 conditions.
So there's no vehicle access from the R5
Yes.
strip to
Yes.
Lancaster Avenue? Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Did you pick up that, the extension he asked for?
Yeah.
Not over there, I didn't see him over there. I always look for them over here.
No, we have one more.
It's over there. You want this garbage here?
It's actually Nicky, so
Throw it away.
he can't go away.
I put the original.
Well, there are no human beings, at least barring you on this side of the dais.
It's over here. Oh, yeah, so I'll put them here. It's gotta get them out. Okay. Oh, my goodness. Appeal 2826, applicant PNC Wealth Management located at 200 West Lancaster Avenue.
Just a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. New tape? Old tape?
I didn't know where you were starting. Hold on.
We're gonna start, the last one. Okay, ready? Appeal 2826, applicant PNC Wealth Management located at 200 West Lancaster Avenue, Wayne, Pennsylvania, seeks to locate a sign on the parapet of the building at the requested height of 27 feet 9 3/4 inches, which is above the maximum restriction of 15 feet. Applicant requests a variance from the requirements of Section 280-122C2 for the placement of the sign of the PNC Wealth Management sign in this higher position on the building face. Placement of the sign in a lower position on the face of the building would be confusing to the visitors since there are other tenants occupying the front store areas of the facility. Is this also you, Mr. Cornelia? You ready?
Yeah, I would like to hand up a couple items. One, I'm going to mark as A14, and that's the power of attorney. And actually, John Conaway, who's the agent appointed by PNC, is a senior vice president and officer of the corporation anyway. He's present here this evening, but I will hand up the power of attorney.
Yeah, if he is a senior vice president of the corporation, I don't think we need a power of attorney. You're welcome to hand it up, but I think we generally take senior vice presidents of banks as competent witnesses.
Okay. You say so.
And the other letter is from John Kelly, who's present, who is president of the general partner of the owner, president of the general partner and actually the sole limited partner of the limited partnership. And he's also present here this evening also.
Okay.
So I'll hand them over that.
That's fine. Yep. These can go into the, If I could, if Mr. Kelly could be sworn, so I could just ask a couple of quick questions.
Sir, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm this testimony you're about to give will be the truth and the truth only?
Yes.
And please state your full name, please.
John Kelly,
And Kelly is spelled
Kelly.
There was Mr. Kelly, there was a little bit of confusion. The application listed the owner as Eastern Property Group, but the deed was included.
Wayne Town Center, LP.
And that's what your letter is. Is that an error in the application as Wayne Town Center?
The error in the application resulted from the people that processed it for the sign company submitted it without us looking at it at first.
Okay.
So Eastern Property Group is our main operating company, but does not have an ownership interest. The correct owner is Wayne Town Center, which is a limited partnership, and 200 West is the general partner. And
Okay.
I'm president of 200 West, and I'm the owner of the limited partnership interest.
Okay, and then the letter that you submitted indicates that, you approve changes in the application by your written approval. If there are any changes here tonight, would you be willing to make that approval on the record for us by testimony?
Yes, and that was just directed if there were changes where we weren't present. So if I'm here, it's the same as my signing, if you'd like.
That would be acceptable,
Okay.
in my view, Mr. Chair.
Yes, I'm sorry. Okay.
That's all I have.
Was the correct deed ever produced, John?
Well, the correct deed, this is the correct deed. In other
I have it.
words,
No, it's 813.
Now, this deed is not completed, it's not dated, this is not the final deed. The one that was attached to the application.
Oh.
It's acknowledged without being dated, it's
Yeah,
actually,
no, I
actually,
understand.
it's,
And actually, I saw that, and so I went on the Delaware County website. And if you wish, I can. This shows that Wayne Town Center LP is the owner and indicates that it was recorded on April the 1st, 2008, under deed book 4331, page 1117. I can hand that up
Yeah.
to John also if you wish.
Deed-
as long as
deed
we
was
have
it?
the recorded
Say
deed.
what?
It's 4331, deed book, page 1117, recorded on April 1st, 2008, in the Recorder of Deeds of Delaware County.
April 1st, 2008?
Correct.
The actual settlement date was March 28th, 2008.
Well,
And
John,
the,
call that 813A, and we'll make it part of it. That way it'll
Yeah.
be, because that's 813 is the deed.
Yeah.
And I'll make this 813A, okay?
So what's the date of the deed, the final deed? How's it dated?
4/1/2008 was the recording date.
No, I mean, the date, on the first page of the deed, what was the date of the deed?
You know, John?
The date of settlement, the actual date of settlement was March 28th.
No, that's not what I'm asking, sir. The date of the deed, you have the actual deed, Nick? The
I
signed deed?
just have a copy that was sent to me, that was 813, Noah, and I'll see if I can find it. Yeah, it's undated, the copy that I have.
It looks like it was notarized.
Notarized on March
20.
26, 2008, actually.
I'm not sure if that's a 6 or an 8.
Yeah, that could be, yeah.
That was the 6th. That was that was notarized ahead by the seller who was in New York and then sent down to the title company for the settlement of the 28th.
I mean, if it was accepted by the recorder, presumably the date has to be no later than the 26th unless the recorder.
They record things all the time that are dated wrong for the acknowledgement, wind up being deemed unrecorded later, but as long as you're satisfied that this is the
Yeah, I
ownership,
think
we'll
we're
go
we're
for
here
it.
to make sure that they've got a deed, and if at some point somebody attacks the recording, I think that's fairly beyond what we have to worry about.
Okay.
John, We already established that you're the president and the general partner of the partnership.
That's correct.
Where do you live?
I live on Dorset Road in Devon.
Okay, and you own other properties in Wayne also?
We own other properties right on Lancaster Avenue, within a block of it, Susquehanna Bank, the Verizon and the UPS building next door. And we have a couple buildings in Devon.
Okay, and when did you purchase this property?
Closing was March 28th, 2008.
Okay, did you do any, generally, could you just tell the board what renovations were done?
Yeah. We bought the property. We had been working on it for over 2 years to get the property sale completed. It was hard to pin down because we had out-of-state owners and other people with a long-term lease that were out of Texas. We were able to put that together, get the existing mortgagee determined, and we got new financing. And our plan was to come in and we totally demolished the interior of the building and took everything out down to the steel and the brick and the block that was there. From there, we put in new utility lines, new water lines, new glass, new window lines, a new plaza entrance, and basically took a true shell and converted it into a new project.
And actually, part of this was purchase of that old gas station that has been there forever.
That's correct. There was a gas station that I think was closed in 1992 and released by EPA in 1995, and had been dormant in that time.
Now, I'm going to show you in particular, relating to this particular sign, and if we can take the board through some of these exhibits. First, I'll show you what's been marked as A1. Can you tell the board what A1 represents?
A1 is the site plan. At the top of the page where my finger is Lancaster Avenue. The left side would be going west, right side would be going east toward Philadelphia. And building, the single-story building here is the gas station.
That's to the left.
To the left, the main building is the L-shaped building here. It's a two-story building, and it has a small basement area. Do you want me to describe the use of it? Or?
Yes, please.
Okay. The first floor of the building is dedicated entirely to retail, to stores, and there's a L-shaped plaza in the front that's pretty wide. It's 16 feet wide here. It's over 10 here, done in brick to match the building, and that's a promenade for people to be able to walk both on the pedestrian sidewalks and from their cars. The
Can I just
store.
interrupt for a quick second? I'm sorry. I don't seem to have exhibit labels except for A7 and A8 on the two photos in the back, and we probably ought to make sure that we have your exhibits labeled so we're all on the same page.
You know, there was
Is there another?
there was a new exhibit packet. I'm wondering if that got in the file. The one, it says Site Plan 01, and I just put an A in front of it. That should be it. Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it?
See, I've got.
I have one here. John, I have it in here. Sir. That?
Oh, I see what you were doing. Okay. Yeah, okay. Yours, I didn't get the markup.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I got two in here. Maybe you can have one of them. I don't know if it's
I can mark.
okay.
I think, John, I think it may say 01, they just didn't have an A on it.
Yeah, mine didn't get A's.
Okay.
I guess I don't rate Nick.
No, I think actually looking at Jim's too, didn't have A's on it either. I must have gotten tired and forgot to put them on.
The bottom right side, though, says site plan, and underneath it would be 01 or A01, what we're looking at. And the part that I'm pointing to here is the walkway. Main entrance coming into the property is typically coming in from the east side, and there's also one on the west. The main side is coming in here. There's an instructional sign here that indicates that the office building entrance is in the rear, and it's directing you that way. Purpose being that the retail stores are parking here on the front, facing Lancaster Avenue and along the side. Their only access and entrance to the stores and to the restaurant that's there is to go through the plaza. The rear of the building, directly opposite Lancaster Avenue, is the entrance to the office building and that's a two-story lobby with a nice staircase and also a new elevator that takes you up. So people coming to the office will be parking in the rear and more toward the west side. People coming in into the retail are directed strictly to the lot there and on the side. The instructional sign directing you to the rear is important because first or second time visitors lets them know that if they're coming to the office to park back here. If they were to park in the front, they'd probably have to get back in their car and relocate again.
Showing Western marked, actually, we're a little bit out of order, A5, and that's the portion that has the yellow proposed lease space. Can you tell the board the significance of that?
We signed a new lease, long-term, for approximately half of the second floor with PNC Wealth Management, but with PNC Financial Services. That's the bank conglomerate headquartered out of Pittsburgh. They are relocating here, and it's a private bank, private wealth management office that will be directed to our community in the region in which we serve at large. There are other financial services companies and advisors like that in the area because of the proximity of the Blue Route and so forth. And they will be taking the area that's indicated in yellow. It's about half that floor.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as A2. Can you describe what A2? This is where the sign would be located and the appearance of it?
A2, I'll start here to orient everybody. The brick wall that you see at the bottom of the page is joining the sidewalk that goes along Lancaster Avenue. So this is the part of the building that juts out right to the closest to Lancaster Avenue. You can see the beginning of the stairs going up on the left side of that to take you up to that retail plaza. The front of that building on the first floor is the retail area, and it continues all the way around. The sign that's shown at the top that says PNC Wealth Management is a sign that's on the parapet of the building, which is approximately 3 feet above the roof line, and it's there to let people know that the tenant that's taking the majority of that floor is on the second floor. They're there. If we put a sign down below, it would misdirect people to the first floor. I think they would be parking in the wrong areas, and they wouldn't be able to access PNC appropriately. They'd have to walk around or drive back around.
Mr. Canale, the only relief you're looking for is height.
Correct.
We're not having excess sign area.
Nope.
The property is not being.
Right. Not dimensional. This sign is less than 50 square
And
feet.
with other signs on the property, you're compliant with the code.
Correct.
But for the height, so that's the only
Correct.
thing we're looking at.
And actually, I'll ask, has all the signs here proceeded to the design review board?
Yeah, we came up with a sign standard that we worked on with the DRB, and then we went in and we got approval for all the retail signs. But as a courtesy, as we've leased space, we've come into DRB with each individual sign, although we sort of have more of a blanket approval. That's going well. We have one monument sign, pretty small out in the front because of the size restriction to list the tenants, but it's pretty hard to read because of the smallness of it.
Have you come to DRB with this particular sign?
Yeah, we were at DRB on Tuesday as a postponement from the meeting on the 10th, and we received approval on everything that we asked for on PNC and they like the sign and they're approving of the sign, but their approval of the sign is deferred to the zoning hearing board because of the height restriction. But the sign itself, the colors, the size are fine with them.
And they don't have a problem, they did not object to the height?
No,
They
they
like
like
it. It's up to the
it.
zoning board, but they just said they don't care about the height or they're happy with the height. which
Yeah,
is
as a matter of fact, one of the members said that it reminded her of the way lettering was done when banks were older and it looked good and so forth.
Where else could you put the sign if you didn't put it up there on the building?
Where else could we put it? There really isn't another place that would be appropriate, because if we put it down below on the first floor, it really wouldn't serve the.
But where could you put it on the first floor?
That would be a question. It would be in front of someone else's existing retail store location, and it would be misleading to put it there.
But even with the sign at the top, you are not entering from that side, you are going in the back.
That's right, we have the.
So it
we
doesn't
have-
really serve the purpose saying, the sign is inviting you to the second floor.
It establishes that PNC is on the second floor and they've got the right building. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a way of even seeing PNC at the building.
And actually, PNC is out here, correct? They're leasing this space in.
They've got those three windows that are going along the top.
Well, and if you put them below the windows, would you be able to do it there? Or would the lights interfere in some way?
Well, the lights could interfere, but the problem would be, you've got White Dog Restaurant going in there out of Penn,
Right.
and their signs would be there. And it would be confusing. People wouldn't know. They would park in the wrong area, they would walk to the wrong location, it wouldn't be good. I believe that with it up here, it's clear that the tenant is on the second floor, and when you come in, there's an instructional sign telling you that the office entrance is at the rear of the building.
Will the White Dog signs be above the windows or
Yes.
between the windows? So
Yes,
they
the
sort of
white-
have,
Yeah, the White Dog sign would be where my finger is now and also on the side.
okay. And is that part of their lease that they get that spot for their lease, for their sign?
Yes, subject to governmental approval.
Okay. So in some respects, they sort of have dibs on that spot and you couldn't put the PNC sign there anyway.
No, I
Okay.
think it would be a problem.
Might be breach of your lease.
Could be, yes.
Is this lease conditioned upon this approval?
Is this lease condition?
I'll rephrase it. Does the lease die if you do not get this?
No.
This relief granted? Okay.
No.
Now, who is going to rent the other side of the second floor?
I'm sorry, sir?
Who would rent the other side of the second floor?
We have two other tenants that are
I
already.
mean, you don't need to identify them, but it's not this.
No, we're not going to put signs up for anybody else. They're smaller tenants in size, and they're appropriately served on the monument sign that we have out front.
Would you agree to only one sign on the parapet for the whole building as a condition of this approval?
Yeah, we would. We would agree. We're very adverse to having a lot of signs on the building, but I think this one's important. It meets the criteria of square footage, and I really think this is the right placement for it. And I think it serves the tenant well and the building well, and it's harmonious with the community.
I see how it identifies PNC as occupying the building. I don't frankly see how it tells me if I'm driving in, it doesn't tell me where PNC is.
Actually,
It
makes you
doesn't tell me
think
to
they're
go
in the
around the
front.
back. It makes me think they're in front, if I had to pick a guess.
Well, on the instructional sign that comes in, where it says office building entrance at rear, it has a small PNC with the logo, so you know that you're going back that way when you're there. But for branding and marketing purposes, I think it's important that somebody taking over half the floor there have that type of
I
visibility.
understand that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's desirable. How would you distinctly say what the hardship is here that you're trying to get relief from?
I want to say the hardship is.
It's clearly desirable. I mean, I understand
Well,
that.
I think that it would be, I think PNC located here from another location that they had been in to get the visibility. There's a 25,000-day car count, and I think that the services and the mission they provide serve the community. I think if they're not identified, that people can see them appropriately, it's going to make it harder to execute that mission.
Now, also, now, let's go back to the plan also, the site plan.
Yeah.
And if you could explain, again, the P002, that's where the PNC sign would be located, correct? And
Yes.
if you could explain the building and the layout as far as the hardship is concerned.
Well, I think the second floor, I mean, first of all, if they're only on a little sign here, I don't think people are going to realize that somebody that's taking over 25% of our building is even going to be here. If we were to put the sign any lower on the building, I think it would misdirect people into the retail area, and they would park in that front parking field and try to get to it there. You can't get through any of these stores, or there's no other access to get to the second floor but the rear. Their offices come around, and they have three sides of glass here on that area.
But sign W1 tells them to go around the back. I mean, if I were to go to a large building downtown, let's say I were to go to any one of the multi-tenanted towers downtown, I go on the front entrance and I find the directory or someone behind a desk tell them who I'm there to see, and I look to see where to go. Everyone for these offices is going to have to go around the back. They're going to go in that door, and I guess there'll be a directory
But,
and an elevator.
I mean, where I might differ with you on that is if I was going to, let's say, the Aramark building, they don't have all of the building, and they have a common receptionist down there to direct people, but yet Aramark's name is on there because they're the principal occupant of the building.
Well, that's for advertising. I understand for advertising, but as far as direction, put
Well, I
aside
think
the
it's to let
advertising.
people know that it's the right building.
I know
too.
the advertising of PNC's name is desirable, but I'm saying from the standpoint of can people find it, they walk into the building, they look at the directory, and they go to the suite indicated, on the floor indicated, as you would for any building. So, I mean, the advertising value I understand, but right now just looking at the directional value, because the issue really saying is people aren't going to know where to go, and somehow putting this on the second floor, on the parapet above the second floor in the front of the building, will let them know that they should go around to the back and then go up to the second floor. I think that little sign, W1 tells them, go around the back.
I
and
think
they'll
it
walk in
helps
the
them
door.
understand that they've arrived to the right building, first of all, before they get to that.
Wasn't there an
small sign.
address on the building?
An address.
Yeah, I
yes.
mean, if I'm going to 1601 Market downtown, I look for 1601 Market, and then I walk in and find out where Mr. Jones's firm is on the 16th floor, and that's where I go.
Well, I mean, similarly, if I were to drive on Lancaster Avenue, I'd see a sign for Radnor Financial Center at the top of their building, but yet I know that what their address is, it's right out front, and I know where I am. Or if I go around to King of Prussia Road, there's a law firm that has an office building there, and their name's at the top of the building, but their address is clearly on the street. I would know I could find it as well, and there they have the whole building. It's not a mixed tenant. So if I go up West Avenue, I have an AT&T sign that's 30, 40 feet off the ground. They're the only person that's in that building. It's an AT&T building. So I think I'm not much different than them, or Bryn Mawr Trust across from the Acme on Lancaster Avenue. It's the same
Well, that may
function.
prove that what you're asking for is not unprecedented, but it doesn't establish the hardship to justify the variance. So I'm asking you just to state that the best you can so the board can consider the case.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm probably not, maybe I'm not being as clear as I should, because I'm not practiced in this. I haven't really, been before, a board like this before on this. I mean, is there a part here, Nick, that I'm missing in my interpretation?
That's, when you look at,
think
and
that-
I think we've kind of gone through it, and John's hit on it, is if you look at the site, which is A1, you have an L-shaped building, you have a weirdly shaped lot with narrow alleyways to the rear. So they have to be directed to where they're going to be. The sign itself tells the traveler that PNC Wealth Management is here and that they are on the second floor. Otherwise, the traveler would not know where they're located. We do have a small directional sign where W11 is indicated, which I know we've all been in the circumstances where you're looking for where an office is, and that small directional sign is probably one of the last places you're looking to see where that is. And we actually have a copy of that sign here. It's been marked as A4. We indicate where the sign is located. This, again, due to the configuration of the building and the configuration of the lot, directs any would-be traveler as to where PNC Wealth Management is located, in addition to obviously being.
But I mean, all these other
things.
tenants that'll be on the second floor, the people coming to see them will have the same issue. Where do I go? Are they in this building? I realize you're giving signage to a principal tenant. I know it's worth something to them. It's a nice thing for them to have, and something people would ask for, taking a large amount of a building. But the question is their hardship any greater than the law firm that may take 5,000 feet upstairs, or the accounting firm that may take 8,000 feet upstairs? People still have to know where to go, get in, and then where do I go once I'm in?
Yeah, the issue is that the people on the second floor typically are a third or half of that square footage. They don't have very much square footage. They average probably around 2,000, and the tendency that we've experienced so far is they don't generate a lot of traffic that's destination. Here we have people coming from within our area and outside, and I think that their visitor count will be a different patterning than the other people we have, just based not only on their size, but the type of business they do.
So there's going to be a lot of people in and out of this location?
You mean for this particular
Yeah, a lot of
tenant?
turnover of visitors.
Not a lot, but I think they're going, by what they do, they're a private wealth management, so people are going to come in to talk to advisors. They're going to have, they might review things quarterly or annually. That would be the effort.
Is there going to be signage on the side of the building directing them toward the back in any way? Is the only other signage, in other words, the W001?
Yes, sir. That's the only instructional signage telling someone to go to the rear.
John,
And
were
that's,
there
and that's only, I think, 1.6 square feet. It's pretty small.
John, were there other signs on this building when you first purchased it?
Yeah. When I did buy the building, there were several signs that were on the outside that were much larger than this. There was a Graduate Allegheny Healthcare System 1. There was a NovaCare sign on there, because Pat Croce had NovaCare in there before Graduate Allegheny came in. And we took those off when we cleaned up the building.
Now, were those signs higher than 15 feet? Granted, they may have been non-conforming, probably before our zoning code, but were
yeah.
those signs higher than 15 feet?
Yes, yeah, they were up between the parapet and the windows on the second floor. Yeah.
Now, just going through the exhibits, A3, I'll quickly go through it. I think we've hit on everything that needs to be hit on. A3 shows the sign itself and conforming as to size, and again, on the left-hand side. Sure. A3 shows the sign itself and the indication, again, where the sign is located on the left-hand side of that picture.
Yes.
Correct, John?
A3 would be the plan, if approval were granted, that would govern the placement of the sign, would it not?
Yes,
It says your
yes. Up
dimensions.
top, actually, it has the dimensions, too.
So this would be this, if
Right.
you grant them in accordance with the plan.
Nick, excuse me.
Sure.
Do you have another similar setup of a building in this township?
There's, matter of fact, attached to the plan are 3 zoning hearings where height was granted, and I think in some instances even higher than this. And then also we have the AT&T building that John had mentioned. But A10 was Bryn Mawr Trust. You may remember that when we put the insignia BMT on top of the clock there on that tower. That was done relatively recently, I believe, 2007. A11 was the Radnor Financial one that was referred to before, and that was the sign that, again, exceeded height limitations in front of the Radnor Financial building on Radnor Chester Road. Then A12, you may recall, was Schifrin and Barroway on King of Prussia Road, and that is on top of the building. You can see it says Schifrin and Barroway, although I think the name may have changed now. It may just be, a different name. But that is actually on top of the parapet also at the high point of the
If I
building.
recall correctly, the Appeal 2609 and I believe 2634 were situations where the building was set back and there was a real line of sight issue.
2609 was definitely set back. Bryn Mawr Trust,
Not Beer Mart Trust, I was thinking
Yeah.
the Schifrin and Barroway one.
Schifrin
and then
is on.
Rubenstein as
Yeah,
well.
Rubenstein was definitely set
Way
back.
up.
Yeah,
Big
that was
setback.
definitely set back. And Schifrin and Barroway, that building, you may recall, is set back to some extent, but not.
Yeah, and I think we
good
also gave
distance.
them size. They also wanted not only height, but they
Yeah.
increased the size of that one
Mhm.
because they were set back.
Yeah.
So they were asking for 2 variances, I think.
But is there a condition that the next tenant will not ask for a similar sign on the other side of the
We
building?
were willing to condition this approval on this would be the only sign on the parapet or the only sign that would exceed 15 feet. I believe there may be some signs you said for White Doll Cafe, but again, that would have to go to design review and,
Well, they actually have been really approved, but we would take them back to design review. I mean,
Okay.
there are other signs that are there for each of the tenants are below the height limitation. And the answer is yes, we would restrict that we would not put another sign on the parapet or over 15 feet.
Yeah, I think over 15 feet is
Yeah.
the really operative one.
Yeah.
just going through again, A6 just shows views of the building, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And I believe A7, again, is just the front view, but A8, that kind of shows the rear of the building, correct? A8 here?
Yes, that's the, A8 is the top photo is the entrance to the office area.
And then that's just the bottom portion is just a picture of the parking, the area that's reserved for
Yeah.
parking.
Yes, correct.
Is the directional signage W001, is that the maximum size that piece is allowable?
No, actually, I think it's smaller.
No. I think if we made it bigger, it would be, I think it might not blend, with what I think Matt and some of the people are trying to do with Wayne, and also I wanted to make sure that it was clear for people turning on and off Lancaster Avenue, not blocking vision.
Remember that one was the one that was approved, but it is smaller, I believe it is smaller than required. But
Didn't turn my mic. Any other tenants going to have signage on the sign out front, or just PNC?
Just PNC.
you're referring to the sign
the
in
instructional
A40?
sign.
Yeah,
Instructional
the
sign? Yeah,
directional.
right.
Why not make that sign larger so that it's visible from the pike, both east and westbound, and very much more clear as you enter? Because I just don't see, I understand the desirability of having PNC's logo up and name up there. But as far as directing people, I don't see that it does anything. So why not make the larger sign, directional sign when you come in, accomplish that?
Nick, could you kind of reiterate the hardship again for me, please?
Okay. I'll go back to A1 again because this is what we've been using to indicate it. What we have here, if you look at A2, you'll notice that, one, there's no other area to put this sign. If you're with the windows where they're located, there's no area at all to put this sign, PNC Wealth Management, on the face of the building. In effect, that's a hardship in itself because this applicant would not have the opportunity to have a wall sign unless it was located at this height. Secondly, when you look at the site plan, we'll see that we have an L-shaped building. We have an unusually shaped lot that has narrow entrances back to the rear where this applicant has to go. You'll also note that the only entrance for the second floor offices it's in the rear. What we're trying to do is indicate that PNC Wealth Management is on the second floor, and they are right below where the sign is located, as you see on A2, and also attempt to direct people and have them know that they are to access PNC Wealth Management through the rear of the building as opposed to the front of the building. And to serve that purpose, we have both the sign on the face of the building as well as the instructional sign on Lancaster Avenue, albeit it is smaller, but again, that is in keeping with what we're trying to do on Lancaster Avenue. That is have smaller freestanding signs as opposed to large signs on Lancaster Avenue, which is consistent with the Wayne Master Plan.
Thank you. Any questions? Noah?
Well, I look at the front of the building, and it's very nice. I like what you've done with the building. But aesthetics aside, I see the PNC up there, and I see a door there in the center panel. This doesn't show the whole front of the building, this particular cut, but in that middle panel of the building, there's an entry door. And I see that, and I see it as I'm driving by, and I figure I park up front and I go in those doors, which will take me into the White Door Cafe, I imagine. But that's the effect it creates. And I don't think it goes to what the issue is. I think it's nice to have signage on a building and its status, and it's worth advertising an image, but I don't think it goes to the alleged hardship, and that is, guys, you have to go around the back and get on an elevator to come to our office. I don't think this tells people that at all.
The doors you're pointing to above that will be the White Dog Cafe sign, so they'll know that.
Which would really be confusing. I get PNC here, and I have White Dog Cafe, and I have a set of doors.
It's pretty clear, industry practice, that the sign there will be clear that the person's the second floor. And, we feel that way. And I think the sign that is instructional or directional coming off of Lancaster Avenue, indicating that the office entrance is at the rear, will help reinforce the way to get to PNC so that it will work on this site, because it does not work. If a person pulls in here and that sign isn't there in tandem with the other one, I don't know where we put the site plan.
Hey, Nick, on A6,
I don't know.
A6,
Excuse me.
The,
the third, the top right sign, the top right picture. How about if you put it in that corner there?
there's
You see
a,
where it is, right? That one piece at the top? That way
well, I'm not sure where you're pointing, sir.
Over here, the top, so if you look at the, I assume, like right on the inside of the L, then people would know that it's over there and then come around to get it. I think you have a better, then you're far enough away that your hardship is, it'd be easier, it's hard to see from the street. See what I mean?
Well,
See what I mean,
yes,
Nick?
yes, but it won't help people that are coming from the west. And that's one of the issues there. They have the majority of the floor, and it goes around on the three sides. The sign would be visible going east or west to get to the building. You would have passed the building then, potentially. I know the first or second time you come, you become a veteran and you're there. Also, that starts to get over windows that are an area that are not theirs. I think that I'd rather have it where their space is.
I understand what you would like. We have to deal with giving the minimal amount of relief, based on the hardship, okay? And yeah, I think most of us are having a hard time with why you need to sign, because it doesn't really help or unconfuse someone that's coming to the building. And I think maybe by having it back a little bit, you're a lot closer to where they have to go to get to the offices in the rear, as well as it kind of says that I need to sign up there because I am set back. It's giving you a little, it's enhancing your hardship a little bit. Because you have no hardship
I
right now.
appreciate your,
Granted, it's not as good an advertising sign for them, but that's not what our issue is.
Right, that's what I'm kind of saying.
You're putting it in a much smarter place from an advertising perspective.
may I,
We understand
well,
that.
can I just say that I do say, and I appreciate your input, I genuinely, I do, and I take it to heart and under advisement. But I know that the traffic is kind of balanced going both directions. I think that it would be more supportive of establishing where they are if it were on that front left. And at the same time.
But you have to understand, you have to stay in the position of this board. Our board isn't to advertise for PNC Wealth Management or any company. Our thing is to give the minimal amount of relief based on the zoning of Radnor Township. And right now, your hardship level does not warrant us issuing a variance, at least in my opinion. And I'm not speaking for anyone but myself. The hardship that you're asking us to consider doesn't warrant a variance for the sign's height. It just doesn't, it's not doing it. So what we're saying is potentially if you move it back, now the hardship increases a lot, it makes it a little bit more palatable for us.
Chairman,
I think.
would it make some sense, I just throw this out again myself, having heard the various concerns, for them to take this back and either relocate the sign in an area that seems more palatable from the hardship prong, or to be able to show why there's a hardship with perhaps more pictures or testimony on this location, because I sort of see an impasse here that might, a little bit of work to think it through, could either give us a new location that, for which the hardship is there, or perhaps some real showing that hardship in this site is present.
Yeah, Or they, what do you think, Nick? Would you like to talk about this a few minutes and then get back to us? Okay, okay. We'll recess for 5 minutes? Nick, 5-minute recess?
Yeah.